It's been 6 weeks since Hurricane Maria tore through Puerto Rico. Roughly 70% of the U.S. territory remains without power, and more than two-thirds of its roads are still closed. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, has been spearheading recovery efforts and signing up hundreds of thousands of people for disaster assistance. But some, including the mayor of San Juan, have criticized FEMA for not doing enough. Last month, the Registered Nurse Response Network answered the mayor's call for help by sending 50 volunteer nurses from 8 states to Puerto Rico. Over the course of 2 weeks, they distributed clean water, food, and medication to thousands of hurricane victims in dozens of communities. We're joined now by 2 of the nurses. With me in the studio, Sandy Adler Killen, an emergency room nurse at Kaiser Permanente Richmond Medical Center. And via Skype is Randee Litten, an emergency room nurse at St. Joseph Hospital in Eureka. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Twee.
Thank you.
Sandy, you returned 2 weeks ago
Correct.
from your relief mission in Puerto Rico. What were the conditions you saw there?
Twee, it was devastation. Literally, it was like a war zone without bullets. People were desperate. People had no clean water, no food. We encountered individuals who had been injured during the hurricane, shoulder dislocations, had no ability to get, in terms of access, transportation, roads were closed. They had, if they were able to get to a location, x-rays were down. People were, as I said, were just desperate for basic supplies, basic needs, and of course medical care and medicine. They were out of medications.
And Randee, so you first arrived about 2 weeks after the hurricane hit, and these were the conditions you still saw. Were you actually the first responders that many of these people saw?
Oh yeah. I mean, I just hearing Sandy talk is bringing me back to every single moment that we would go out to these villages, these towns, these barrios. I personally went out with 2 groups every day, and we would try and at least go to 2 different towns on the island. And there wasn't one town that I went to where they said, oh, Ada's already actually been here. Every single town said the same thing. You're the first people that we've seen. And this was on day 22, day 23 while we were down there. They were just standing in line waiting for someone to show up to give them food, water, hope.
Yes.
And were you shocked that you were the first responders, Sandy?
I was absolutely amazed. You know, people grabbed us, held us, sobbed in our arms. We cried with them. Again, just having the ability to provide them with some basic necessities that we actually, Randee, amazingly, started a GoFundMe account, and it allowed us to purchase glucometer strips for blood sugars. People were, their sugars were even unreadable when we took them. People who had such high blood pressures, suffering from hypertension, out of their medications, just complete desperation, and so much gratitude that they weren't forgotten by us.
And Randee, why was it so important to you to go on this mission?
I live in Northern California, and I think it's only a matter of time before a disaster hits our area. I mean, while we were down there, we lost 2 of our nurses. They had to fly back because their homes were destroyed in the Santa Rosa fires. So it happens everywhere around the world, and it's our job to respond to those areas that are in need, because one day it's going to happen to us, and we're just going to hope and pray that people showed up like we showed up for them. I mean, to wait 25 days in the heat and in the pouring down rain and just hoping for a shrivel of food or water, I can't even imagine what that feels like.
Oh yeah, we encountered couples in their 80s that were living in homes filled with black mold, no roofs, no sides of the house, no food, no water. And to be a U.S. citizen and know these are my fellow citizens, and they had nowhere to go. Some were even told by FEMA, don't touch anything, live in this condition, because if you move anything, then you might not get reimbursed, and we won't be able to help you.
And speaking of FEMA, Randee, did you see a lot of FEMA workers when you were there?
I hate to even say this, but in the 2 weeks that I went into 2 to 3 towns a day, my 2 groups personally never saw FEMA in one town.
Never?
Not once.
And what did you think of that?
I couldn't wrap my mind around the disorganization and chaos that was happening. I still to this day can't understand why the aid wasn't there when they were saying that it was there. Why were these people not receiving aid? If we wouldn't have started that GoFundMe account, it is, I think, up to $55,000 now. That was the money that we were using to get food, to get water to these people, to get medications. If we wouldn't have started that fund, I don't know how we would have accessed as many communities as we did.
Yes.
So,
well, we did contact FEMA, and they gave us this statement about their recovery efforts in Puerto Rico, essentially saying the overall federal effort following Hurricane Maria has included the largest medical response mission ever. They said more than 4,700 medical personnel have treated more than 30,000 patients so far. They have also provided temporary power to the island's hospitals. But Sandy, what you're describing doesn't seem like that's what you witnessed on the ground.
I encountered FEMA one time while we were there. One day we had an assignment where they asked us to support and set up a triage station at a stadium where people were actually going to fill out paperwork to get support from FEMA. Well, people have been standing in line, Twee, from the previous afternoon in 90-degree heat. And some of them weren't even being processed until the next afternoon. And then after they filled out by hand their paperwork, they were given a juice box and a bag of chips.
Randee, what were the biggest health needs and concerns that you saw while you were there?
Besides we saw a lot of chronic issues, diabetes, hypertension, but we realized really fast that the bigger issue is something that isn't even at play yet. It's just beginning, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. The water issue in Puerto Rico right now is that it's contaminated. It's contaminated with a specific bacteria, leptospirosis. People are dying from it already, and until they get a good handle on the water system, until they start getting filtrations, more and more people we're going to see are going to be dying from this drinking of water because they're not even being given bottled water. And then the other health issue is the black mold that's just all the homes are covered in it right now from all the still water that sat in those homes for 7-8 days. Now everybody's breathing in this black mold. So it's really going to honestly get worse before it gets better. But those are the two big epidemics that we're going to see take off.
Yeah. Well, my hat's off to both of you for being there to help out. So thank you to Randee Litten and also Sandy Adler Killen for being here today. And if you would like more information on Randee Litten's GoFundMe page for this relief effort, you can go to gofundme.com/Hurricane Maria Nurse Relief.